You have been rehearsing mediocrity for so long that you have forgotten what it feels like to move with the quiet authority of someone who knows they are divinely guided. Every morning you wake up asking for permission from a world that will never give it to you. You negotiate with your fears as if they were reasonable partners in your destiny. You wait for the feeling of readiness that will never come because readiness is not a feeling, it is a decision. What if I told you that every moment you spend waiting for confidence, for the right circumstances, for more knowledge, for better timing, you are refusing the very power that created Edison's laboratory, Lincoln's resolve, Ford's vision, and Gandhi's unshakable certainty? These men did not wait to feel worthy of greatness. They decided to act as if the infinite intelligence of the universe was operating through them, and it was. This is not about positive thinking or visualization exercises. This is about a fundamental shift in how you see yourself. You are not a separate being hoping to connect with power. You are the living channel through which divine intelligence seeks expression in this world. The moment you begin to act from this truth, everything changes. Your presence changes, your decisions change. The very fabric of reality around you begins to respond differently. Tonight, I am going to show you how to stop being the seeker and become the answer, how to remove every distraction that clouds your connection to infinite intelligence, how to move through this world with the quiet certainty that God Himself lives within you and operates through every choice you make. This is not motivation, this is activation. If you are ready to stop negotiating with limitation and start living as the divine being you truly are, then stay with me for the next hour. And if this truth resonates in your soul, subscribe now, because what I am about to share will fundamentally alter how you see yourself and how the world responds to you. The time for waiting is over. Your transformation begins the moment you decide it does. Number 1, identity reprogramming. Right now, at this very moment, you are living from an identity that was never truly yours. You wake up each morning wearing the mask of limitation that was handed to you by others who themselves never discovered their true power. You speak with the voice of doubt that echoes the fears of generations who came before you. You move through your days as if you were ordinary, as if the same force that moves the planets and grows the mighty oak from a tiny seed somehow forgot to include you in its grand design. This is the cruelest deception ever perpetrated upon the human soul. You have been convinced that you are separate from the infinite intelligence that created all things. You have been taught to believe that some men are chosen for greatness while others are destined for mediocrity. But I tell you now, this is a lie so profound that it has enslaved entire civilizations. What you are about to receive is not information. Information fills libraries and clutters minds. What you are about to receive is a complete identity transfer, a reprogramming of the very code that runs your life. Listen not with your ears, but with the deepest part of your being, because what I am about to share will either transform you completely or bounce off you like rain on granite, depending on the state of your soul. There is a pattern that runs through every man who has ever achieved anything of lasting significance. Carnegie did not build his steel empire because he was born with superior intelligence. Edison did not illuminate the world because he possessed some rare genetic gift. Ford did not revolutionize transportation because he was naturally more capable than other men. Lincoln did not preserve a nation because he was destined from birth to be great. These men discovered a secret that most will live and die without ever understanding. They learned to act as if infinite intelligence lived within them, not sometimes, not when they felt inspired, not when circumstances were favorable, constantly, intentionally, with unwavering firmness that would not bend, even when the winds of opposition howled around them. Think of your mind as a magnificent castle with a single gate. That gate is your decision-making faculty. Every day, 2 forces stand before this gate. One is doubt, dressed as wisdom, whispering reasons why you should wait, why you should be careful, why you should remain small and safe. Doubt is a nighttime thief that enters through unlocked doors while you sleep, stealing your treasures of possibility and leaving behind only the hollow shells of what might have been. The other force is decision, standing like a vigilant guardian with sword drawn and eyes that never close. Decision does not negotiate with doubt. Decision does not entertain the possibility of failure. Decision simply chooses, and in that choosing creates reality. Most men never realize they have the power to choose which force they will serve. They believe themselves to be victims of circumstance, prisoners of their past, slaves to their current conditions. They wait for permission that will never come from a world that is too busy seeking its own permission to grant any to others. But you who hear these words in this moment, you have within you right now the same infinite intelligence that guided Carnegie's business decisions, that whispered inventions into Edison's receptive mind, that gave Ford the vision to see what had never been seen before. It is not waiting for you to become worthy. It is not measuring your qualifications. It is simply waiting for your recognition, for your acceptance, for your decision to stop playing small and start living as the divine being you truly are. This is not about positive thinking or mental tricks or visualization exercises. This is about a fundamental shift in who you know yourself to be. The moment you begin to act as if God Himself lives within you, something ancient awakens, your voice changes, your walk changes. Your very presence in a room changes because you are no longer pretending to be human, having occasional spiritual experiences. You are spirit having a human experience, and that spirit is unlimited, unstoppable, and absolutely certain of its divine nature. Begin today to speak as if infinite wisdom flows through your words. Move as if divine strength empowers your every step. Make decisions as if the intelligence that runs the universe is guiding your choices. Not because you feel it, but because you have decided it is true. And when doubt comes knocking at the gate of your mind, dressed in its familiar robes of logic and caution, let decision stand guard. Let decision remind doubt that this castle has new management, that the old identity has been dismissed, and that only thoughts aligned with your divine nature are welcome here. You are not who you were yesterday. You are who you choose to be today. Number 2, decision comes before evidence. You have been taught one of the most destructive lies ever whispered into human consciousness. You have been told to wait for evidence before you act, to gather proof before you believe, to feel ready before you begin. This backwards thinking has kept more souls imprisoned in mediocrity than all the chains and walls ever forged by man. Every morning you wake up and scan your environment for signs that today might be different. You check your bank account for evidence of abundance. You examine your body for proof of vitality. You search your circumstances for validation that you are worthy of success. And when the evidence does not match your dreams, you postpone your greatness for another day, another week, another year. But greatness has never waited for evidence. Greatness creates evidence. The moment you reverse this process, the moment you choose to act before seeing proof, you step into the same stream of power that carried every great soul who ever walked this earth. They did not wait to feel ready. They decided they were ready, and readiness followed their decision like a faithful servant. This is not mere positive thinking or wishful imagination. This is a spiritual practice so profound that it aligns you with the very mechanism by which the universe creates reality. When you act as if the divine already flows through you, something fundamental shifts in the fabric of your being. Your words carry different weight. Your presence commands different respect. Your decisions generate different results. Consider the simple act of rising at 5 in the morning. Most men see this as a discipline, a grinding effort to force their body into uncomfortable patterns. But when you rise at 5 with the understanding that you are honoring the divinity within you, when you move through those quiet morning hours as if you are in sacred communion with infinite intelligence, everything changes. You are not just exercising your willpower, you are declaring to the universe that you recognize yourself as worthy of its highest guidance. You are creating a daily appointment with your divine nature. You are practicing, in the most practical way possible, the art of acting as if you are who you know yourself to be in your deepest moments of truth. The weak man waits until he feels motivated before he acts. The strong man acts and motivation follows. The wise man understands that motivation is not a feeling to be waited for, but a force to be commanded through aligned action. Every decision you make from this understanding becomes a vote for your new identity. When you choose to speak with authority, even though your circumstances might suggest humility, you are voting for the divine version of yourself. When you make decisions from abundance, even though your bank account might suggest scarcity, you are casting your ballot for the unlimited being you truly are. This is why the great ones seem to possess such unshakable confidence. They were not confident in their circumstances, they were confident in their source. They knew that the power flowing through them was not dependent on external conditions but on internal alignment. You do not need permission from your past to create a different future. You do not need approval from your current conditions to access higher possibilities. You do not need evidence that you are capable before you begin demonstrating that capability. The universe responds to decisiveness with resources, it responds to clarity with opportunity, it responds to unwavering faith with miraculous support, but it cannot respond to hesitation, to doubt, to the energy of someone who is waiting for conditions to change before they commit to their own transformation. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, make a decision about who you will be tomorrow, not based on how you feel, not based on what happened today, not based on what others might think or say. Make that decision based on who you know yourself to be. When you strip away all the conditioning, all the limitations, all the small thinking that has accumulated like dust on the mirror of your true nature. Then, tomorrow, act from that decision, speak from that identity, move from that understanding, and watch as the universe begins to rearrange itself around the new vibration you are emitting. Evidence is not the prerequisite for greatness. Evidence is the result of greatness. And greatness begins the moment you decide to stop waiting and start being who you came here to be. Number 3, true authority is silent. You have witnessed it in rooms where the loudest voice commands the least respect. You have seen it in meetings where the person who speaks the most says the least. You have felt it in the presence of those who mistake volume for authority, force for power, aggression for strength. These are the desperate performances of souls who have not yet discovered where true authority originates. Real authority never raises its voice because it does not need to compete with lesser forces. It does not shout because it knows that truth whispers and only the wise have ears to hear. It does not demand attention because it naturally draws attention like a magnet draws iron, effortlessly, inevitably, without strain. Consider the authority of Lincoln during the nation's darkest hour. His power did not come from his office, though he held the highest one. It did not come from his physical presence, though he was tall among men. It came from his alignment with something infinitely greater than himself. When he spoke, people listened not because he was president, but because his words carried the weight of divine purpose. Gandhi moved an empire without raising an army. Jesus transformed civilization without holding political office. These men understood that true authority flows from the inside out, not from the outside in. They knew that when you operate from your divine center, you do not need to convince or manipulate or force. You simply need to be, and your being becomes the irresistible force that moves mountains and changes hearts. Ego-based authority is always loud because it is always insecure. It needs constant validation, endless proof, perpetual confirmation that it exists. It feeds on recognition and starves without attention. It must announce itself because it doubts itself. It must prove itself because it does not trust itself. But spiritual authority rests in unshakable knowing. It does not question its right to exist because it knows its source. It does not doubt its power because it understands that its power is not its own but flows from the infinite reservoir that never runs dry. It does not need applause because it receives its approval from the highest court in the universe. When you operate from this understanding, your very presence changes the atmosphere of any room you enter. You do not need to announce your importance because importance radiates from your being. You do not need to demand respect because respect flows naturally toward authenticity. You do not need to compete because you recognize that there is no competition when you are connected to the source of all supply. Watch a truly powerful person in action and you will notice they speak with measured words, move with deliberate grace, and carry themselves with quiet dignity. They do not waste energy on petty arguments because they are conserving their force for matters that truly matter. They do not get pulled into drama because they refuse to operate from the same level of consciousness that creates drama. This is not passivity. This is not weakness. This is the supreme confidence that comes from knowing you are backed by infinite intelligence. This is the calm that comes from understanding that your source is inexhaustible. This is the peace that comes from realizing that you do not need to fight for what is already yours by divine right. The man who shouts his authority has none. The man who whispers his truth moves nations. The difference is not in volume but in alignment. The difference is not in force but in connection. The difference is not in what they say but in who they know themselves to be when they say it. Your calm becomes your strength when it is rooted in spiritual certainty. Your stillness becomes your power when it emerges from divine alignment. Your silence becomes your authority when it carries the weight of infinite wisdom. Stop trying to prove yourself to a world that is too distracted to notice true greatness when it stands before them. Stop competing for attention with those who confuse noise with significance. Stop arguing with people who are not yet ready to hear truth spoken softly. Instead, cultivate the quiet authority that comes from knowing beyond doubt that you are an expression of divine intelligence in physical form. Speak from that knowing. Move from that understanding. Live from that truth. And watch as your silent presence accomplishes more than all the loud voices around you combined. Watch as your quiet confidence opens doors that force could never budge. Watch as your peaceful authority commands the respect that aggression could never earn. True power whispers, and only those who have learned to listen will hear it when it speaks through you. Number 4, obedience before readiness. Every night you lie in bed making promises to the person you will become tomorrow. You swear that tomorrow you will have more courage, more energy, more clarity. You tell yourself that tomorrow you will feel ready to take the actions that today seems impossible. You postpone your greatness, waiting for a readiness that exists only in the fantasy of a future that never arrives. This waiting for readiness is the most sophisticated form of procrastination ever invented by the human mind. It sounds noble, responsible, even wise. But it is the voice of fear dressed in the robes of prudence, and it has kept more dreams buried than all the graveyards of the world combined. The great ones never felt ready. Edison was not ready when he began his first experiment. Ford was not ready when he envisioned the assembly line. Carnegie was not ready when he started with nothing but burning ambition. Churchill was not ready when he faced the Nazi war machine. King was not ready when he stood before the Lincoln Memorial and spoke of a dream that would reshape a nation. But they moved anyway. They acted in spite of their unreadiness. They obeyed the call of their divine nature even when their human nature screamed in protest, and in that obedience, readiness found them. Faith is not a feeling you wait to experience. Faith is a command you give to the universe through your actions. It is not something you feel, but something you do. You do not act because you have faith. You have faith because you act. The very act of moving forward despite uncertainty is faith in its purest form. Every morning, the divine within you issues instructions for your growth, your expansion, your evolution into the being you were created to be. But these instructions do not come with guarantees. They do not arrive with detailed plans. They do not include promises that you will feel comfortable or confident or ready. They come as impulses, as urgings, as gentle pushes toward actions that your logical mind cannot yet comprehend. They whisper possibilities that your experience cannot yet validate. They point toward doors that your current identity insists you are not qualified to walk through. This is the moment of truth. This is where greatness is born or dies. This is where you discover whether you are a servant of fear or a vessel of divine will. This is where you choose to either obey the highest calling of your soul or remain enslaved to the comfortable prison of unreadiness. Aligned action does not require proof. It does not need guarantees. It does not wait for comfort. Aligned action simply trusts that the intelligence that beats your heart and grows your hair and heals your wounds knows what it is doing when it asks you to move in a direction your mind cannot yet understand. The man who waits to feel brave before he acts courageously will wait forever. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of fear. The man who waits to feel confident before he takes bold action will never take bold action. Confidence is not a prerequisite for right action, but the result of right action. You have been conditioned to believe that preparation comes before opportunity. But the highest spiritual law operates in reverse. Opportunity comes first, and preparation follows. The universe presents you with chances to grow, to expand, to become more than you are, and in rising to meet those chances, you develop the very capabilities the opportunity demands. This is why every significant breakthrough in your life has come not from feeling ready, but from acting unready. This is why your greatest growth has occurred not in your comfort zone, but in the terrifying space between who you were and who you are becoming. Tonight, before you sleep, listen carefully to the voice that speaks beyond your fears. Listen to the urgings that arise from the deepest part of your being. Listen to the call that asks you to be more, do more, become more than your current circumstances suggest is possible. And tomorrow, obey that voice. Not because you feel ready, not because you have a plan, not because you can see the outcome. Obey because obedience to your highest nature is the only path to becoming the person you were created to be. Readiness is not a feeling. Readiness is a decision. And that decision is available to you right now, in this moment, regardless of how you feel or what you think you lack or how unprepared you believe yourself to be. The universe is ready. Your divine nature is ready. The only question is whether you are ready to stop waiting for readiness and start living from the truth of who you really are. Number 5, purification of mind, environment, and heart. You wonder why the divine power seems distant, why infinite intelligence feels blocked, why the connection to your highest self appears so weak. You pray for greater clarity while your mind remains cluttered with the debris of yesterday's worries. You ask for inspiration while your environment shouts chaos at every turn. You seek spiritual connection while your heart harbors the poison of old resentments. The answer has been hidden in plain sight. Divine power cannot flow through a polluted channel any more than pure water can flow through a clogged pipe. The infinite intelligence that seeks to operate through you requires a clean vessel, a clear pathway, a purified instrument through which to express its limitless creativity. Every great leader understood this fundamental truth. Edison spent hours in silent meditation, clearing his mind of all unnecessary thoughts so that innovation could find fertile ground in his consciousness. Ford sought solitude in nature, understanding that the noise of the world could drown out the whispers of infinite wisdom. Rockefeller began each day in complete silence, protecting his mental space like a sacred temple because he knew that clarity was more valuable than gold. Your mind is not a garbage dump for every random thought that passes through consciousness. Your mind is a precision instrument designed to receive and transmit the highest frequencies of universal intelligence. But it cannot perform this sacred function when it is contaminated with worry, doubt, fear, and the endless mental chatter that most people mistake for thinking. Begin each day by cleansing your mental space, not with entertainment or distraction, but with deliberate silence. Create periods where no thoughts are welcome except those aligned with your highest purpose. Guard your consciousness as fiercely as you would guard your most precious treasure, because your consciousness is your most precious treasure. Your environment speaks to your subconscious mind in a language deeper than words. Every object in your space either supports your divine nature or undermines it. Every color, every sound, every texture either elevates your vibration or drags it down. You cannot expect to operate at the highest levels of spiritual awareness while surrounded by chaos, clutter, and confusion. Look around you right now. What does your space say about your relationship with yourself? Does it reflect the dignity of someone who knows they are a temple of infinite intelligence? Does it honor the sacred being who inhabits this physical form? Or does it mirror the scattered, unfocused energy of someone who has forgotten their true identity? Remove everything that does not serve your highest good. Create space for silence, for beauty, for the things that remind you of your divine nature. This is not about perfection or expense. This is about intentionality, about creating an external environment that supports your internal transformation. But the most crucial purification happens in your heart. Resentment is spiritual poison. Anger toward others is anger toward the divine, expressing itself through different forms. Hatred is a blockage in the very channel through which love seeks to flow into the world. You cannot access infinite intelligence while harboring infinite grievances. You cannot receive divine guidance while refusing divine forgiveness. You cannot be a clear channel for universal love while your heart is clogged with the sewage of old hurts and ancient grudges. This does not mean becoming passive or weak. This means recognizing that every person who has ever hurt you was acting from their own pain, their own unconsciousness, their own disconnection from their divine source. Forgiveness is not about excusing their behavior. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself from the spiritual toxicity that resentment creates in your system. Tonight, inventory your heart. What old wounds are you still nursing? What ancient grievances are you still feeding? What resentments are you carrying, like heavy stones in your spiritual backpack? Each one is a dam blocking the flow of infinite intelligence through your consciousness. Release them not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve freedom. Release them not because what they did was acceptable, but because carrying their poison is unacceptable to your divine nature. Release them because you understand that every moment you spend in resentment is a moment stolen from your own greatness. Guarding your energy is not selfish, it is sacred duty. Removing draining people from your life is not cruel. It is necessary for spiritual alignment. Protecting your clarity from the chaos of unconscious souls is not isolation. It is devotion to your highest calling. You are a conductor in the grand orchestra of creation. But you cannot conduct divine music while your instrument is out of tune, while your environment is filled with discord, while your heart is contaminated with toxic emotions. Purify your mind through silence. Purify your environment through intentionality. Purify your heart through forgiveness. And watch as the infinite intelligence that has been waiting patiently begins to flow through you with such power and clarity that you will wonder how you ever lived any other way. Number 6, you are the door, not the guest. For too long you have lived as a beggar at the feast of life, waiting for someone to invite you to the table of your own destiny. You have stood outside the door of opportunity, knocking politely, hoping that circumstances will open and grant you permission to enter the life you were born to live. You have prayed for miracles while forgetting that you are the miracle the world has been waiting for. This is the ultimate reversal of truth that has kept humanity in spiritual poverty for centuries. You are not the guest waiting for invitation. You are not the visitor seeking entrance. You are not the applicant hoping for approval. You are the door itself, the gateway through which the infinite intelligence of the universe seeks expression in physical form. Every moment you spend waiting for external validation is a moment you deny the divine its rightful expression through your unique consciousness. Every time you seek permission from others, you reject the authority that the Creator has already granted you. Every time you look outside yourself for the source of your power, you turn your back on the infinite reservoir that flows within your very being. The great ones understood this fundamental truth. They did not wait for the world to recognize their greatness because they recognized that the world was waiting for them to recognize their own greatness. They did not seek doors to open because they understood they were the door. They did not pray for circumstances to change because they knew they were the force that changes circumstances. You have been conditioned to react to life, to respond to what happens to you, to adapt to the conditions that surround you. But reaction is the behavior of a victim, and you are not a victim. You are a creator. Response is the habit of the powerless, and you are not powerless. You are the vessel through which infinite power flows into manifestation. When you stop reacting and start embodying divine presence, everything shifts. You no longer wait for opportunities to come to you because you recognize that you are the opportunity the universe has been seeking. You no longer hope for the right circumstances because you understand that you are the circumstance that makes everything right. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. This is not ego. This is enlightenment. This is not delusion. This is the deepest truth of your spiritual nature, finally breaking through the lies that have kept you small. Look at the history of every significant advancement in human civilization, and you will find individuals who refused to wait for permission to change the world. They did not ask if they were qualified. They simply began. They did not wonder if they were ready. They made themselves ready through action. They did not seek approval for their vision. They made their vision so compelling through their embodiment that the world had no choice but to take notice. You are not here to fit into someone else's plan for your life. You are here to fulfill your own divine assignment. You are not here to follow paths that others have carved. You are here to carve new paths that only you can create. You are not here to live someone else's version of success. You are here to define success according to the blueprint that exists in the deepest chambers of your soul. The world does not change first and then you respond. You change first and then the world responds. Reality does not shift and then you align with it. You align with your divine nature and then reality shifts to match your new vibration. Life does not improve and then you become grateful. You become grateful and then life improves. This is the secret that transforms victims into victors, followers into leaders, reactors into creators. This is the understanding that turns ordinary human beings into extraordinary forces of divine will expressing itself in physical form. Tonight, stop asking life what it wants from you and start declaring what you want from life. Stop wondering what opportunities might come your way and start creating opportunities through your aligned action. Stop hoping that circumstances will change and start being the change that transforms circumstances. You are not waiting for your life to begin. Your life begins the moment you stop waiting. You are not hoping for your time to come. Your time is now. You are not seeking your purpose. You are your purpose, walking in human form, breathing divine breath, carrying infinite intelligence in the magnificent vessel of your consciousness. Step through the door of your own limitless potential. But remember, you are not stepping through a door. You are the door. And the moment you fully embrace this truth, the entire universe begins to flow through you with such power and purpose that you will never again question whether you belong at the table of greatness. You do not belong at the table. You are the table. You are the feast. You are the celebration of divine intelligence, expressing itself in perfect, unlimited, unstoppable form. Number 7, the power of silent presence. In a world that mistakes noise for significance, volume for authority, and constant motion for productivity, you have forgotten the supreme power that exists in stillness. You have been taught to fill every silence with words, every moment with activity, every space with sound. But in this frantic pursuit of doing, you have lost touch with the transformative force of simply being. True power does not announce itself with fanfare. It does not demand attention through dramatic gestures. It does not prove its existence through impressive demonstrations. True power radiates from the core of a being who is aligned so completely with their divine nature that their mere presence becomes a catalyst for transformation in everyone around them. Watch how people respond when someone of genuine spiritual authority enters a room. Without saying a word, without performing any action, without making any effort to impress, they shift the entire atmosphere. Conversations become more meaningful. Behaviors become more conscious. The very air seems to vibrate with possibility. This is not magic. This is the natural result of aligned presence. Edison possessed this quality. When he sat in silent contemplation, his entire laboratory seemed to hold its breath, as if the very walls understood that genius was at work. His focused stillness, grounded in absolute certainty of purpose, inspired everyone around him more than any speech he could have given. His quiet presence carried more weight than 1,000 words of motivation. Ego wants applause because it doubts its own value. Ego seeks validation because it questions its own worth. Ego demands recognition because it fears its own insignificance, but divine presence simply is. It exists without need for external confirmation. It operates without hunger for approval. It transforms without effort, without strain, without the desperate energy of someone trying to prove something to the world. This is the difference between those who perform power and those who embody power. The performer exhausts himself in endless demonstrations, constantly working to convince others of his significance. The embodied presence conserves his energy for what truly matters, knowing that his influence flows naturally from his alignment, not from his efforts to impress. Silence is not the absence of something. Silence is the presence of everything. In the deep stillness of aligned consciousness, infinite intelligence finds the perfect conditions for expression. In the quiet space of centered awareness, divine wisdom discovers fertile ground for manifestation. In the peaceful presence of a soul who knows its source, miracles occur as naturally as flowers bloom in spring. Most people fear silence because in silence they meet themselves without distraction. They encounter their own thoughts without the buffer of external noise. They face their own consciousness without the comfortable numbness of constant stimulation. But you who seek alignment with your divine nature must learn to love silence, to crave stillness, to hunger for the deep peace that exists at the center of your being. This peace is not empty. This peace is full of potential, full of possibility, full of the infinite intelligence that seeks expression through your unique consciousness. This stillness is not inactive. This stillness is supremely active, vibrating with the creative force that moves mountains and transforms hearts. When you speak from this silence, your words carry weight that cannot be manufactured through clever rhetoric. When you act from this stillness, your movements possess grace that cannot be learned through training. When you exist from this presence, your being becomes a beacon that draws others toward their own divine nature without effort or intention on your part. The world will try to convince you that you must be constantly doing something to be valuable. The world will tell you that silence is wasted time, that stillness is laziness, that presence without productivity is meaningless. Do not believe these lies. These are the desperate whispers of a consciousness that has forgotten its source and now seeks worth through endless activity. Begin each day by sitting in complete silence for at least 10 minutes, not thinking, not planning, not reviewing or preparing, simply being, simply existing in the awareness of your own divine nature, simply resting in the truth of who you are beneath all the roles you play and identities you wear. In this silence, you will discover the source of all genuine authority. In this stillness, you will find the wellspring of all authentic confidence. In this presence, you will touch the infinite intelligence that seeks expression through your consciousness. And when you emerge from this silence into the noise of the world, you will carry with you an invisible force that transforms everyone you encounter. You will possess a quiet authority that opens doors without knocking. You will radiate a peaceful power that accomplishes more than all the frantic effort of those who have forgotten the supreme value of aligned presence. Your silent presence is your greatest gift to a world that has forgotten how to be still. Your peaceful authority is your most powerful contribution to a civilization that has confused motion with progress. Your centered consciousness is your ultimate service to humanity. Number 8, live it, don't just say it. Knowledge without application is the most sophisticated form of ignorance ever devised by the human mind. You can memorize every principle, quote every truth, and discuss every concept with impressive eloquence. But if these words do not transform how you move through your daily existence, they are nothing more than beautiful decorations on the tomb of your potential. You are no longer the person who listens to wisdom and files it away for future reference. You are no longer the seeker who collects insights like trophies, but never allows them to reshape the fundamental structure of your life. You are no longer the fragmented self who speaks one truth and lives another. You are a man who acts as if God lives within him, not because of how you feel, but because of what you have decided. This decision must be renewed every morning like a sacred vow. This commitment must be reinforced every evening like a holy ritual. This truth must be lived every moment like a divine commandment that requires no external enforcement because it has become the very DNA of your consciousness. Your time is no longer a commodity to be wasted on activities that diminish your divine nature. Your energy is no longer a resource to be squandered on people who drain your spiritual vitality. Your attention is no longer a wandering servant available to every distraction that demands its service. These are sacred gates that you now guard with the vigilance of a spiritual warrior who understands that his consciousness is the most valuable possession in the universe. When someone asks for your time, you no longer automatically grant it out of guilt or people-pleasing. You ask whether this request serves your divine assignment. When opportunities present themselves, you no longer evaluate them based on convenience or comfort. You measure them against the standard of your highest calling. When choices must be made, you no longer decide based on fear or social expectation. You choose from the center of your aligned consciousness. Every morning becomes a ceremony of identity declaration. Before you check your phone, before you scan the news, before you allow the world to tell you what should capture your attention, you speak these words with absolute conviction. Today, the divine acts through me. Today, infinite intelligence guides my decisions. Today, I move through this world as a conscious expression of unlimited power. This is not positive thinking. This is identity installation. This is not hopeful wishing. This is reality creation through conscious alignment. This is not motivational speaking. This is spiritual programming at the deepest level of your being. The man you were yesterday no longer exists. The limitations you accepted last week have been dissolved. The small thinking that governed your past has been replaced by the unlimited perspective of your divine nature. You are not trying to become someone new. You are finally allowing yourself to be who you have always been beneath the layers of conditioning and compromise. This transformation is not gradual. This shift is not something that happens over time. This change occurs the moment you stop negotiating with lesser versions of yourself and commit completely to living as the divine being you truly are. Growth may be gradual, but awakening is instantaneous. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to practice your new identity. Every challenge becomes a chance to demonstrate your divine nature. Every obstacle becomes a training ground for strengthening your spiritual muscles. Every setback becomes evidence that you are growing beyond your old limitations. When people treat you according to who you used to be, you do not argue or explain. You simply continue to embody who you now are until their perception shifts to match your new reality. When circumstances try to pull you back into old patterns, you do not resist or fight. You simply maintain your alignment until the circumstances reorganize themselves around your new vibration. You no longer live by accident. You no longer drift through days without intention. You no longer allow your consciousness to be shaped by random influences and unconscious habits. Every choice you make is a vote for the divine version of yourself. Every word you speak is an affirmation of your unlimited nature. Every action you take is a demonstration of infinite intelligence expressing itself through physical form. The world will test your commitment to this new identity. Life will present you with situations designed to see if you will return to your old ways of being. People will try to convince you that you are being unrealistic, impractical, too spiritual for the real world. This is not persecution. This is the universe confirming that your transformation is real and powerful enough to disturb the status quo. Stand firm in your divine identity. Live from your spiritual center. Act as if infinite intelligence guides your every move, because it does. Speak as if divine wisdom flows through your words, because it does. Move as if unlimited power animates your being, because it does. You are no longer becoming divine. You are divine, expressing yourself through human experience. You are no longer seeking your purpose. You are your purpose, walking in physical form, breathing divine breath, carrying infinite intelligence in the magnificent vessel of your consciousness. In this moment, as these words settle into the deepest chambers of your consciousness, something ancient is awakening within you. You can feel it stirring, can you not? That recognition, that remembering of who you have always been beneath the layers of doubt and limitation that others wrapped around your divine nature. Tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, you will not be the same person who began listening to this message. The old identity that questioned its worthiness, that waited for permission, that sought validation from a world too blind to see its own divinity, that version of you is dissolving like morning mist before the rising sun. You are becoming the living answer to every prayer you have ever whispered in the darkness. You are becoming the miracle you have been waiting for. You are becoming the force that moves through impossible circumstances and transforms them into stepping stones toward your inevitable greatness. Picture a river that has been flowing underground for years, building pressure, gathering strength, accumulating power in hidden depths. Suddenly, it finds a crack in the earth and bursts forth as a magnificent spring, bringing life to everything it touches. You are that spring. The divine intelligence has been building within you, and now it seeks expression through every word you speak, every decision you make, every breath you take. This awakening continues beyond this moment, beyond this day, beyond what your mind can currently comprehend. Each time you choose to act from your divine center, the awakening deepens. Each time you return to remember who you truly are, the transformation accelerates. If you feel called to walk this path of continuous awakening, to be reminded daily of your divine nature, then join others who have chosen to live as conscious expressions of infinite intelligence. Subscribe to continue this journey of remembering, because what you have discovered today is not an ending, but the beginning of everything you came here to become. You are no longer seeking. You are the one being sought. You are no longer waiting for power. You are the power that creation has been waiting to express.